It's so great to check out a score where the orchestrator is so focused on craft and has, I feel, has been listening to a lot of my lessons and in fact we have had a few one-on-one score evaluation sessions live on Patreon. So yeah, so it's just really great to check this out and to see how your orchestration is just really blossoming, Jesse. Just an enormously fun score. The first thing that I would observe about it is that it's intriguing how you have this real symphonic texture right in here. Just, lots of doubling and yet a lot of restraint so that the harp and the clarinet lines, more or less, come through. And then you follow that with this really beautiful restrained section, right? Now, there's nothing really wrong with how you are scoring out these surges. There are really quite a few of them. So, you might want to think about how much control, is this a little too much in terms of delineating the nuances and so forth. Would it be possible to simplify things just by going from forte to pianissimo with one long hairpin, that kind of a thing? But I really do like the attention to detail. Having said that, it's always a sort of a balance, right? What is or isn't being used. This is a little confusing here. Two pianos. So I guess you got the first. Right. So you just need one piano marking here, and then the copyist will give it to the right player. Here, I would really want this to be divided up into two separate voices in the parts, right? So if this was the second oboist holding on to that low B, then I would want the first voice above showing a rest and so on. It's just easier, for the score reader and the copyist and the conductor and everybody else. Now, one thing I will say is, you really want these kind of delicate sounds in here and this beautiful restrained orchestral tissue, and that's very cool. I just feel, for what you want to do here with this low B, it's just a little. I think that this is a second clarinet note, but perhaps you scored it in oboe just to, just because you had all of this other stuff to deal with in the first. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not accusing you of chickening out or anything on complex complex scoring, complex notation, but. It's in that case I would say just divide the first and second clarinets into separate staves and just have a separate staff for the second. But this, I feel that, for what you want to do here, you kind of want to start off on this low C and then go to a low B and then crescendo to mezzo forte and everything else, and you've got these other low Bs and so on. I think it's just easier to use that, just to have that be the province of the clarinet. Right, and just to spare the player. Okay, it's just those. It's not that those notes are unplayable. It's just they are ungraceful, and it's this kind of scoring is the wrong way to use them, I feel. Right. Okay, so first and second flutes. It's just really beautiful scoring. I feel just the adding the tremolo and having these this lovely doubling in winds and strings, and then and just having it restrained enough so that the harp has a chance to stand out. Having said that, you really should mark some slurs over these phrases, okay? Just to help group them together, in the harpist's mind. And there are also ways to distribute this across the hands, right? So one way of doing that would be to have the bass clef for everything from this F downwards, and then have the treble clef for everything from this A upwards, right? And then you have a nice division. Just jump the notes up into the next staff, and then just put a big slur over all of them. And then here, go to treble clef in both hands, and then give the left hand staff the bottom three notes, B, D, and G, to say them in order, and then have the upper staff covering the higher notes. Do you know what I mean? And then the same approach here, and here, and so on. And it just whether the harpist uses that distribution of hands or not, it just makes it simpler on them. All right. Just think in terms of 3 to 4 notes for the left hand and 3 to 4 notes for the right hand. Like what's the division across the hands, and then they can just put their hand in that position, and they don't have to work it out like mentally. Yeah, I like how you start off unison, double bass and cellos. That's really nice, and I like that you give like a destination to the end of this diminuendo. A lot of people are not doing that. Like I'm seeing a lot of scores where there's just a hairpin diminuendo, but nothing. There's no destination dynamic, and everybody else is going down to pianissimo, or the reverse. They're all going up loudly, but then the other player drops out, but they never kind of get to read what they were going to just because they don't play the next note, right? So be careful about things like that. Yeah, and this is all nice and just beautiful scoring. I'm just really, there isn't a whole lot for me to be picky about. So this evaluation may be quite a bit shorter than the last one. But I think that you just want to know more or less what you got right, and what you might need to work on. So one thing that I would say in here is that I felt that this was unnecessary, right? That the doubling the first clarinet and the bass clarinet was unnecessary. Okay, so you're going to get sort of kind of like a phased sound, but also like the players will be playing together. It'll be sort of a thicker sound, and you won't get that beautiful sense of kind of solo fluttering that you do here in the bass clarinet and in the harp, right? So I think you want to maintain that, but I can see like you're headed into thicker textures right in here. So perhaps that's the reason why you doubled up a bass clarinet with first clarinet. And I feel like it, just mark this player louder. If you're worried about that, it's kind of soloistic, right? So why can't this player also crescendo to a forte and then come back down, and then have the second player on a different staff playing mezzo piano and sort of taking over these low notes for the oboe player, for the second oboe player, right? So that's what I would do. Just let the first clarinet speak out, just as you did with these other two players, right? It needs it, rather than mezzo piano. Like nobody can hear. I mean, you can't hear it in the mock-up, and the mock-up is telling you the truth. It will really be submerged, except that what's going to happen is that the that the first clarinetist is going to hear what happened with the bass clarinet, and then they're going to just say, well, I'm going to do that too. I think that's what's needed here. And so their idea of what mezzo piano crescendo will be louder than what you have scored comparatively with everybody else. Okay, so I would just say, look, just ditch the bass clarinet here, or if you like, you just give these low notes, these low Bs, concert Bs to the bass clarinet as as concert Cs as written Cs in the staff, right? And that's one thing that you could do. So anyway, this needs to speak out more, right? And yeah, I like the push going into here. It's just really beautiful, and it's very symphonic, right? This is Jesse at his most symphonic. I've heard you score some other things that had had different kinds of textures and approaches, and I feel this is really, this is a beautifully symphonic approach right in here. And then that just leads us to the 12/8, and this is just really lovely the way that this is scored. Of course, I'm going to have a bone to pick with you on some other things, right? But okay, before I get into this, I'm reminding myself just to point out that Jesse did break down a lot of the pianistic slurs, right? There's still, you still have things that are a little problematic, like, you're slurring across this rest and so on. So what does that mean, right? So maybe you forgot to shorten the slur or something like that. And then there's slurring across the downbeat here. But of course, this is going into a diminuendo, so you could sort of argue, well, I kind of want it smooth and then to kind of go down to this pianissimo and then kind of have a fresh start here and so on. But, just a question of whether or not you worked out the ups and the downs, right, Jesse? So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. See, so it does kind of work, right? Okay. Yeah, and once again you have a slur across a. So it's I get I get what you want here in terms of that being a mezzo staccato. Yeah, it's just a little strange. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I get it. It's all right. So now let's continue on here. I really like how you've got your first oboe and your second clarinet sort of dying away together here into oblivion down to a triple P. You've got to put that triple P marking, well, see, you've got it here. But yeah, it's a sort of a special effect, right? They're both going diminuendo together. So, I would say, yeah, it's sort of a tricky thing. It's probably fine just to leave the triple P here in the second part, and that is just so long as the conductor is making sure that they really do blend on that tone. It's a lovely idea. It's kind of getting down to the point where can you really get down to triple P on an E for oboe, right? Because that's actually one of the notes that can be difficult to control. The player, the note is going to want to sort of cut off, written E and F sharp in some oboe instruments, like oboe and oboe d'amore can be, it's not to say that they can't, right? But the better the player, the easier they can control, or the more experience they have with controlling that note down to a very, very soft. And it's not going to be as soft as the clarinet can play if they want to. But just as long as the players are really paying attention to each other and really listening and trying to blend that sound. And it may take the conductor just to point that out. So can I have a nice blend there down to very, very soft by the end of the bar, please, you two players, right? Now, going ahead, past into the 12/8, I just felt this was really, really lovely. The use of the first clarinet right in here, very, very soft in kind of the middle to lower clarino register, and then, of course, the second below in the upper chalumeau and throat tones and so on. And then the bass clarinet. It's just a really lovely idea in here. And then extra soft horns. So here's a place where notice that Jesse is taking pains to really balance what's going on. At triple P, all of these voices balance, but pushing up to mezzo piano, Jesse's taking extra care here that the horns don't shout over or don't start to dominate, their warm glow at the bottom of the sound picture doesn't start to take everything over. And then, of course, the whole idea to reinterpret the left hand as pizzicato in the strings, I think is really lovely. I have one reservation, which I'll say on this page, and that is this next page. That is, I almost feel like to underline the sense of the middle voice coming out a little bit, especially as these three notes, this last this last these last three beats. I mean, technically they're beats, but the real beat is going to be on the four from the baton. So the this last beam group really is leading into this. So I'm wondering whether or not in the winds this could be slurred. Da, ba, because it's not pizzicato. I mean, the only note that's pizzicato in this figure here is just the beginning, right? So what if it's going pluck, 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 da, right? I just that might be stronger than pluck, 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 But look, if you really want this to be separated and to do in articulation, in tongued articulation, to sort of match up with the strings a little bit better, then I definitely would mark staccato on these. Okay. But yeah, my instinct here is for these to be slurred, just to slur these beam groups to bring out the sense of middle voice a little bit more strongly. Yeah, and then da, 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 da. Yeah, it's just really nice, and just nicely worked out tonguing and emphasis on the downbeat, and not just copying the piano phrasing, and just really a lot of great stuff. And here you've got this kind of interesting da da da. Yeah. Da. So you want like a portato at the end, and then dun dun. Yeah. Okay. So my only Okay, so here I had a bit of a question here. I mean, here you're putting the piccolo on top, right? And did you notice that in the mock-up, what's going on here is these instruments are essentially just kind of obliterating what's going on here with your flutes. Okay, and the reason for that is just because the piccolo is not that powerful on this C, right? And so the mock-up is telling you the truth here. It doesn't have that same projection that could compete with this. And also, you have the quality of intense string tone, really, that kind of sound really, and in this case, it's a unison, right? So you've got this unison string line that's really prominent, and it is being doubled by other instruments here. That same C, we've got we've got the C in the oboe, and the same thing C in the clarinet, and then an octave lower in the bass clarinet, and so on. So those, just that pressure from below is going to just soak up this high C here. So here's a strategy that might work better. Okay, just a thought, and that is, what if you left this as it is, however, just moved these pitches up a harmonic notch, right? So you would have the first flute doubling what the piccolo is playing, and then the second flute would be playing what the first flute is scored as right in here, right? And then move up the oboe into the next notch, right? Or just let the clarinet cover some of those same pitches. Actually, I would put the oboe up higher, and then just leave and actually have the clarinet play some of what the oboe is doing. So just to rework this. Now this is fine. Just kind of everything an octave higher than you did there. But in order to get this top line to be more radiant, more just have more of a presence. All right. Okay. And this is so cool. The call and response, da da bum bum. Like it's just so nice. Here I would recommend if you're putting three trumpets here and trombone and everything, you really need to have B flat trumpet. So I would submit to you, Jesse, that this is a C trumpet part. Okay, like you're pushing your. There's going to be a lot more pressure on this high A up here. I would say, just have it go, have a C trumpet playing G F sharp, right? It's a brighter sound, but I still think that it just it will actually work better with the other things that you have scored to have C trumpets here, and then this should be a second violin line, and then there should be a first violin line that is an octave higher, and then you get a really balanced sound here. Yeah, and then reach this big soaring, and then the response. I love this, that you sort of drop down an octave, bum bum, with the strings on top. So don't change anything about this. This is really, really nice. All right, and then bum, and then you have the harp. It's so cool. You have the harp do a little solo here, and you need a destination dynamic here, right? So I would say start at mezzo piano, crescendo to maybe crescendo to forte. Like I would say, if you leave it mezzo piano, then you need a destination dynamic. I would say up to forte, but I would say start at mezzo forte. Then you don't need a destination dynamic, and you don't need two different. It's just like a piano, right? You don't need separate. You almost never need separate dynamic markings for either hand. So just have this mezzo piano in here, get rid of this, and this should jump up to there. All right. Okay, so I would say mezzo forte crescendo, then you don't need the destination dynamic, it's up to forte. And then the diminuendo here, this is all great. This pizzicato, underlining different pitches of the an octave below the harp, all beautiful. All right, and then the big roll, and then the clarinet family instruments coming in here. And here I would say, I think, once again, I think you get a better sound if you just use one instrument at a time and then have them dovetail. So just start it with bass clarinet and have them dovetail just have it end on a single eighth note here, and then have the first clarinet come in right at that point, right? So this is a tip that I think I'm going to be writing for the next book soon, and that is, what are the registers at which auxiliaries trade off seamlessly to the standard instruments, or with each other, or back and forth, right? And one of those is bass clarinet, lower clarino register trades off beautifully with throat tone and upper chalumeau register standard clarinet. So that would be the perfect pitch right in here. Perfect pitch as another meaning. But yeah, just start here and just have both of them. And this is very cool. Just like the little, you've got your little da 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 da. That's very cool. And yeah, and then just like that little, those little repeated. And this sort of reminds me of an entry that we had kind of at near the start of these Brev entries. I think it was Timothy's score. Yeah, he had a similar idea. I'm not for this section. He only scored up to the up to A, but he had, or up to the end of A. But he had a similar idea in measured tremolo. Yeah, it's just such a cool idea. And then with the piccolo over the top smoothly. Really cool idea. And then this was really nice. Yeah, you have this. Not sure how successful that is, or how beautiful that is. It's a little bit of a kind of like a throat clearing sound. the way that it's scored in there. But then I really like the I like that. It's very, very cool. And the diminuendo down, and just nicely, just very nicely apportioned and so on. Now, the problem here that you've got is that your clarinet is going to really dominate all of this stuff, and you can hear that in the mock-up as well. Like if you're really going to push it up to mezzo forte, then it's really a lot of the beautiful stuff that you've scored in here. This stuff is going to just get buried by the especially going down like with the piccolo getting down into its the lower part of its first octave, right? It's just really a lot of this is going to just disappear. So if you really want these harmonies to kind of stand out in here, I would say just have the player have this be the harmony, just take over the harmony here with the second flute on the bottom note, and the first flute taking this top thing, right? But I mean, it's just really strange dynamics. Mezzo piano, and then you've got the I sort of see what you're doing right in there, but yeah, and then the flute is also going to really disappear against the clarinet by the time you get to there, right? Even it's just the mezzo forte, right? I would say if you were to keep the peak here at mezzo piano, then the blend is much, much better for what you're trying to do in here, and then you don't have to change anything. Okay, and this is really lovely. The viola's coming in here. Yeah, that's really, really nice. Okay, and I wish that the rules of the game allowed me to continue on, but I think people can just see that going on from letter C and then going into D and so on. It's just really great. Jesse, I would have loved to have evaluated your entire effort. Going all the way to the end of the piece, but let's just stop there, because that's more than good enough, and it really is a strong entry. And obviously you have got some you've got some pro chops there, and you really are building towards like that that kind of the craft orchestrator, and just very, very focused and very professional in your outlook. So keep it strong, please, and please consider participating in the next three orchestration challenges. Each one is going to be different. Not to give away the game too much, but there will be a choice of two different pieces in the next evaluation, which are connected with each other, and the time period will be very different, and the focus will be very, very different. And then the year after that, we'll have a piece that is similar to this in some ways and very different in others, and is also a very unexpected piece by a very famous composer. And then 3 years down the road is going to be just a massive blowout for our 10th anniversary. So I hope that everybody will be back for that, because I plan to take off 3 months of the year and just bury myself in your beautiful evaluations, your beautiful entries that you've been sending me. I just I have not yet had a dud. Do you know what I mean? In 7 years, like I haven't had somebody send me something that was careless, contemptuous, cynical, just where people were just half-assedly scoring. I have not experienced that yet in anybody sending me anything. The efforts have all been, as much as the player could put in, or as much as the orchestrator could put into it. And whether the results, you couldn't really compare the results, because everybody was just really seems to be working at their best and improving, and I see the same faces coming back every year, and it just makes me feel so great. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to Jesse for supporting on Patreon, for being such an involved member of the Orchestration Online community. I mean, your comments and your encouragements and your very positive feedback to other people's works and to my resources as well. It's just really made a huge difference, and I appreciate your support and the support of so many others who, whether just subscribing to the website or being a member of the Facebook group or supporting on Patreon, have just really put a lot into the community and made it, I just think, one of the best places on the internet. So thank you to everybody. And with that, I hope you'll join me in the release of the next video for today, which will be coming a little bit quicker, just because the processing of the first video has sort of delayed things a little bit because it's a bit bigger than usual. Okay, I'll see you in that video, and then there will be 3 more videos tomorrow.